Bonjour! Do you know the difference between the passé composé and the plus-que-parfait in French? Well, we'll find out in this video. Okay, before we start, I'd like to remind you that I teach the passé composé and the plus-que-parfait in detail in lessons 15 and 34 of my complete French course at learnfrenchwithalexa.com, which has received 4.8 stars. To me, it's like 5 stars, really. Let's have a look at the passé composé and the plus-que-parfait. You may wonder, what on earth are these? Well, they are both tenses and they are both compound tenses. And they're often used together to describe a series of events that happened in the past. Okay, let's take a look at the passé composé, and you're going to understand quickly what a compound tense is. Okay, and after that, we are going to have a look at the plus-que-parfait and see how they differ from each other, and see how they differ from each other. No, differ, and see how they are different from each other. Le passé composé is the equivalent in English to the present perfect or simple past, and sometimes called emphatic past or past emphatic in English. Now, when do we use it? On its own, the passé composé is used to talk about an action that is done and dusted by the time we talk about it. For example, you could say, I ate at my sister's house yesterday. Yesterday, it's past. Okay, I'm going to use the past tense. It is an action that took place and is no longer. So it would be in French, j'ai mangé chez ma sœur hier, for example. So on the timeline, I would put it here. But how do we conjugate the passé composé? Now remember what I said to you about the passé composé and the plus-que-parfait. These are known as compound tenses. So they're composed of elements. In this case, passé composé is composed of the auxiliary être, to be, or avoir, to have, in the present tense, as in I am, you are, depending on the verb use, of course, and adding to this auxiliary the past participle of the conjugated verb you want. Like, for example, I have eaten. Have is the auxiliary to have, and eaten is the past participle of the verb to eat. Therefore, you need to know how to conjugate these auxiliaries in the present tense, by the way. Okay, so je suis, tu es, il est, and so on. I cover everything about the auxiliary verbs in detail in my course, but also in videos on YouTube. So here are two examples using two different auxiliaries. So for to have, j'ai mangé au restaurant, I ate or I have eaten at the restaurant. And then to be, je suis allé à la boulangerie. And that means I went to the bakery. Here, the auxiliary être is used as aller is known as a movement verb. So therefore, needs to be used in the passé composé with the auxiliary to be. And I would recommend you to learn all the movement verbs. There are not that many. And I cover them all in my course. I mean, go and check this out. As well as all the movement verbs, you have all the reflexive verbs using to be in the past tense as well. Let's have a look at the past participles. In French, the past participles of group 1 verbs end in E with an accent. And the past participle of group 2 verbs end in I. The past participle of group 3, however, vary. While a lot of them end in U, they do not follow a real pattern. So I would advise you to learn them by heart. Unfortunately, there are quite a lot of irregular past participles to remember, so I'm not going to go into details about it in this video because that's not what this video is about. It's about understanding the difference between the passé composé and the plus-que-parfait. Now, the only thing that you have to remember, and this is very useful, is that the past participle work in the exact same way for all compound tenses in French. So not only with the plus-que-parfait, but with the conditionnel passé, the past conditional, or even le futur antérieur, or the future perfect. Once you know them, you'll be able to reuse them everywhere in all those compound tenses. So now we've seen that le passé composé uses the verb être and avoir, or the auxiliary, in the present tense. But let's have a look at what le plus-que-parfait does. Now, le plus que parfait is the equivalent of the plus perfect or past perfect in English. Okay, so when do you use the plus que parfait compared to the passé composé? Now, we use the plus que parfait to talk about an action that has happened before another action in the past. And the adverb déjà, which means already, is often used with it to emphasize that the action has already happened. For example, using manger again, j'avais déjà mangé quand mon ami est arrivé. So here we've got two tenses. Can you spot them? J'avais déjà mangé. Can you see where the plus que parfait is? It's here. J'avais mangé. Now, j'avais, here we've got the auxiliary avoir conjugated in the imperfect. J'avais déjà mangé. I had already eaten. And then we've got here, quand mon ami est arrivé, when my friend arrived. Here we have the auxiliary être in the present tense and the past participle, which means that it's only a passé composé. On the timeline, I would put it there. So how do we conjugate it? Now, I've already given it away by giving you the full sentence here with two tenses to give you an idea of the difference. But just like the passé composé, the plus que parfait is formed of two elements. Again, être or avoir. Just like j'avais mangé, I had eaten. So what have we done here with the auxiliary? Well, this time, instead of conjugating our auxiliary in the present tense, we've conjugated it in the imperfect tense. Okay, hence the not j'ai mangé, but j'avais mangé. And again, it's followed by a past participle. Whether you're conjugated in the passé composé, in the plus que parfait, in the futur antérieur, in the conditionnel, le passé, it's always the same past participle. And of course, I'm not teaching you how to conjugate être and avoir in the present or in the imparfait in this lesson, but I would advise you to learn this by heart. So let's use the same examples as before and put them in the plus que parfait. Remember, j'ai mangé au restaurant. We want to put that from the passé composé into the plus que parfait. So it becomes j'avais déjà mangé au restaurant. So I had already eaten at the restaurant. Okay. And usually it's followed by a passé composé when something happened. Now have a look at this one. Je suis allé à la boulangerie was the passé composé. So I went, but we want to say I had already been or gone to the bakery. So we need to put aller here in the plus que parfait. How do we do that? We use the auxiliary to be because aller is a movement verb, okay? And we use être in the imparfait. So not je suis, j'étais. J'étais déjà allé à la boulangerie. So basically it means I had already gone to the bakery. I had already been to the bakery, okay? And don't be fooled by the translation. Not everything is translatable word for word. In English, you use a had, as you can see, okay, but in French, we use to be in the imperfect, not to have. So I was, okay? So the plus que parfait is used for an action occurring prior to another action in the past. So on our timeline, we use the very first example with the two tenses, j'avais déjà mangé quand mon ami est arrivé, you are going to put j'avais déjà mangé prior to the passé composé. There. Okay. And then mon ami est arrivé. So quand mon ami est arrivé has to be put under the passé composé bit. You see what I mean? The action was prior to that. I had already eaten when you arrived. Now, if you want to practice more of this plus que parfait and passé composé, there are lots more examples in the support guides. Click on the join button below to access the support guide. To recap, the passé composé and the plus que parfait are both compound tenses, and they're often used together to talk about a succession of actions which occurred in the past. The plus que parfait is used to express the anteriority in the past. Did I say that right? It is such a posh word. Alexa's not posh. At all. Now, I truly recommend you this video to see how these tenses line up with all the other tenses in French. Why not check out my awesome video? This one, I am so proud of this one, the timeline video. And if you want to watch a full free lesson on the Passé Composé, click here. Here. I don't know where. That's it from me. Au revoir, à bientôt, bisous bisous.